The year is 1492. In the heart of Iberia, a civilization that had illuminated Europe for nearly 8 centuries finally flickers out. This is the Alhambra Palace, the last jewel of Al-Andalus. Here, beneath its intricate arches and gilded ceilings, the final Nasrid king, Muhammad XII, surrenders the keys of Granada to the Catholic monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella. As he and his court depart, leaving behind a homeland they will never see again, a chapter of history closes. But what happens next? What was built upon the ruins of this fallen kingdom? This moment wasn't just the end of a war, it was the birth of a new nation. With Granada's fall, the crowns of Castile and Aragon were finally united, forging a single, powerful Christian Spain. Historical maps from this era show borders solidifying, a peninsula once fragmented by rival emirates and kingdoms now coalescing under one banner and one cross. Royal decrees, sealed with the emblems of Ferdinand and Isabella, spread across the land, announcing a new order. Spain, as we know it, was beginning to take shape. But this new unity came at a terrible price. To forge a purely Christian identity, a shadow was cast over the peninsula, the Spanish Inquisition. Its purpose was not just to enforce religious orthodoxy, but to root out any trace of the old world. The targets were the Conversos and Moriscos Jews and Muslims who had converted to Christianity, often under duress. Suspicion became the air that people breathed. In candlelit chambers, inquisitors scrutinized testimonies, their quills scratching out judgments on ink-stained parchment. Royal seals were pressed onto documents that decided fates, separating families and spreading a chilling climate of fear. No one was safe from accusation. For the Muslims who remained, life was systematically dismantled. The promise of religious freedom, made during Granada's surrender, was quickly broken. A policy of forced conversion began. To be Spanish was to be Catholic. The melodic call to prayer fell silent as mosques were consecrated as churches. The Arabic language, the tongue of poets, scientists, and philosophers for centuries, was banned from public life. In devastating acts of cultural erasure, vast libraries filled with priceless Andalusi knowledge works on astronomy, medicine, and mathematics were gathered and burned in public squares. This wasn't just the destruction of books. It was the destruction of a memory, an attempt to erase a civilization from the very soul of the land. Behind closed doors, families desperately tried to keep their heritage alive, secretly teaching their children the old customs, whispering prayers in a forbidden language, clinging to an identity that was now a crime. The final, brutal act came a century later. Between 1609 and 1614, King Philip III ordered the expulsion of the Moriscos. Hundreds of thousands of people whose families had lived in Iberia for generations were declared foreigners in their own home. They were descendants of the Muslims who had converted, yet they were never fully trusted, never fully accepted. Cinematic scenes from this dark chapter would show entire villages emptied overnight, their homes abandoned, their fields left to wither. Crowded ships departed from Spanish ports, carrying families into exile in North Africa, with nothing but the clothes on their backs and a profound sense of loss. It was a demographic and cultural cataclysm. Centuries of accumulated agricultural knowledge, craftsmanship, and economic vitality were expelled along with them, leaving a void that Spain would struggle to fill for generations. Ironically, as Spain was tearing itself apart from within, it was simultaneously forging a colossal global empire. The same year Granada fell, Columbus sailed west, opening a doorway to the New World. Spanish galleons, their sails emblazoned with the cross, began to traverse the Atlantic. They returned laden with unimaginable wealth, gold and silver plundered from the Americas, which funded Spain's golden age and its European wars. Spain became the world's first global superpower, a sprawling empire on which the sun never set. But this outward projection of power masked a deep internal decay. The expulsion of its most productive citizens, the Moriscos and the Jews, crippled its economy. The obsession with religious purity led to social stagnation and intellectual decline. The very intolerance that was meant to strengthen the nation was, in fact, planting the seeds of its eventual decline. Today, the legacy of Al-Andalus is everywhere, if you know where to look. It whispers from the honeycombed ceilings of the Alcazar in Seville. It stands defiant in the grand arches of the Mosque Cathedral of Cordova. You can feel it in the quiet courtyards, the gurgling fountains, and the intricate tile work that adorns cities across Andalusia. These are not just relics of a bygone era. They are the indelible fingerprints of a civilization that was conquered but never entirely erased. They are monuments to a multicultural past, a testament to a time when different faiths, for a while, coexisted and created something beautiful. They remind us that history is never a simple story of victory and defeat. The fall of Al-Andalus is often portrayed as the triumphant end of a long crusade. But looking back at the centuries that followed the intolerance, the expulsions, the cultural destruction, and the slow decline that haunted its imperial glory, a more complex question emerges. After the fall of Al-Andalus, did Spain gain a kingdom or lose a civilization? Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more journeys into the depths of history.